There was a snowstorm in the morning. It screened Chinese foxholes on hills above the perimeter and muffled artillery fire from the road to the pass where the 1st Marine Division was fighting its way to the south. It was December 8, 1950, on the frozen plateau of Koto-ri in the North Korean mountains. The troops were the 1st Marine Regiment, rear guard in one of the tragedies of American military history. A funeral was in progress. The thermometer by the commander's tent stood at 25 degrees below zero at dawn when the first men tried to dig graves. Their picks were useless in the iron-hard earth. Dynamite crews set off blasts, but the earth heaved up in enormous black blocks of ice. The commander halted them. More than 100 bodies waited in the row of tents, stiffly frozen, stacked like cordwood. "They'll stay like that until the spring thaw," the commander said, "but we can't leave them to the wild dogs. Blast out those potato cellars." When the holes had been opened, the officer called in a battalion of tanks for the burial, for there was no other way. The beams of the headlights were lost in the swirling snow, and the whirring of the motors was carried away in the wind as the tanks made the graves. Back and forth, crunching icy blocks of earth upon the frozen bodies, the tanks buried the dead. The commander was Colonel Lewis Burwell Puller, 52 years old, 32 years a U.S. Marine. He was in the process of winning his 5th Navy Cross, the nation's 2nd highest military award. No other Marine had won so many. He was not a large man, but his slight, spare frame was erect to the limit of its 5 feet 10 inches. The great thrust of his chest was obvious beneath the bulky uniform. The face was seamed and brown, as rough-hewn as a totem pole. Beneath an ancient cap, the almond-shaped eyes glinted green. The colonel gripped a short pipe in his teeth, as if he were on the point of gulping it down. His voice carried over the wind and down the rows of shuddering canvas, like a Navy bullhorn. Among themselves, he was known to the men of the Corps only as Chesty Puller. The Commandant of the Marine Corps had lately spoken of Colonel Puller. "He's about the only man in the Corps who really loves to fight. I'll go further. He's the only man in any of our services who loves fighting." For 2 weeks, Puller had commanded the rear of the 1st Marine Division, cut off in the Chosin Reservoir region by hundreds of thousands of Chinese Communist troops. The colonel was visiting a hospital tent where a priest administered last rites to Marine wounded when a messenger came. "Sir, do you know where they've cut us off? We're entirely surrounded." "Those poor bastards," Puller said. "They've got us right where we want them. We can shoot in every direction now."